I made this video for founders because maybe you're like me and you're seeing all these 22-year-old kids on YouTube talk about, oh yeah, the end is nigh and that AI is going to come along and it's going to be this super intelligence that wipes us all out because we're going to be mere ants in its way. And then on the business side, you have people talking about how this is the biggest opportunity since the internet. And as a result, all the business voices that you hear and listen to online have generally fallen into a number of different camps. One, you have to say, you just need to focus on your business. And then on the other extreme, you have somebody that went ahead and built an entire ERP application that nobody but them uses. And then you also have somebody that is just endlessly distracted inside their business because there's just so many opportunities where you say, oh, we can automate this thing, we can do that thing, we can do this thing, we can do that thing. And yeah, you can, but then where are your productivity gains to show for it? Can you honestly say that you've realized the promise of AI? And I can say in our experience, after spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, and our payroll is about $70K a month, and 60% of our team's time has been focused exclusively on AI projects. So that's not even including the token costs. And we've been testing these real systems across real marketing campaigns and real operations. What I'm going to be talking about today is not from some course, not from tool I read about. It's real infrastructure that we've shipped, deployed, that's hitting real numbers. Over the past 8 months, there's something I've kept seeing over and over again. And that I see founders working harder because of AI, because we all feel this insurmountable pressure that, hey, the rate of change is moving faster than ever. And if I don't keep up with it, then I'm cooked. I see it as a lot of clients, they're just copying outputs from Claude and then putting that into another application. And then they're re-uploading the same context for 100 times and then wondering why the productivity gains don't show up. And that's assuming you get the right outputs. Oftentimes you don't even get the output that you want. So you're there telling us actually no, this thing. And then you spend 30 minutes annoyed about why it's not doing the thing that you want it to do. Now, over the last 8 months, I spent a lot of time questioning my sanity to say, is this really the best use of my time? And I wanted to make this video that I wish I had 8 months ago to cut through all the noise, all the headlines, and just give me pure signal. I just want the outputs. And that's what I'm going to be delivering you today, showing you everything that I've learned. So you may never see me again. So like this video and subscribe because I'm going to be showing you exactly the hard lessons I learned might be showing up for your business and how you can apply these lessons. Now, it has nothing to do with which model you're using, etc. The problem is what you're building and in what order you're building it in. Now, many of you probably have tried Hermes or OpenClaw. It builds a bunch of crap and then you come back to it and you wonder, it's well, actually, this is not really good. I can't even really use this. Or you're spending all of this time vibe coding and like me, you're questioning your sanity of, is this really moving the needle right now? By the end of this, I'll walk you through how to build everything in the right order. And the founders that figure out this first are going to have an unfair unit economics advantage. You're going to be able to ship AI projects that used to take 6 months in 2 to 3 weeks if you get everything and you incorporate everything that I'm going to be talking about in today's video. So let's dive into it. Now, let me name what's costing you and your team time and money right now. Not in theory, but in practice. And I'm seeing a lot of operators do this where they say, oh yeah, let me just have my VA solve this XYZ super complicated problem by talking to Claude. Now, the best example of this was that I had a client who had their media buyer say, oh yeah, let's just do all the copywriting by Claude. And then they took a word wall, literally just the full word wall, and then uploaded it into Meta Ads Manager and then ran the ads. No spacing, no indenting, nothing. Just pure raw AI slop to run the ads. And what do you think happened? The copy wasn't good and the ads didn't perform. Who would have thought? A lot of operators are making that same mistake where they say, oh yeah, I'm not an expert in this thing. Let me go just talk to Claude and figure it out. And then you think, oh, I just got this genius level output. Let me go take the ball and run with it. But what ends up happening in practice is exactly like the media buyer, the creative, is that you end up just wasting a lot of time fiddling around with something instead of actually focusing on what's moving the needle in your business right now. Which brings me to point 2, which is how most founders are using AI. And this is what nobody wants to hear, is that they take that output, they take it and then run with it, or just paste it into another platform or screen. It's like, okay, let me get this raw output, let me put it over here, this other AI tool, and there you go, Bob's your uncle. Great, this is the new workflow. But this isn't any innovation or new way of working. You're just having an AI assisted way of working. And it's actually more expensive because you think like, oh yeah, we're using AI, we're AI first, we're AI enabled. No, actually you just have a slower workflow with more steps that's maybe a little bit smarter. And both of these mean that if you're working this way, you're not compounding your efforts with AI. Because right now, some other founder is building agents. They're building databases that AI knows how to read and knows how to look at, where the AI reads it and knows the data immediately, understands the business context, understands the business problem, and knows everything that's going on. Instead of them waiting for a human, the agents are actively working inside the workflow and producing real outputs and real business outcomes. So every week that you're sitting there just talking to Claude and driving the output is another week where somebody else is gaining an edge and where their cost for their workflow is approaching zero, is because they understand this. Now, why should you listen to me? Well, I've only spent 60% of our $70,000 per month payroll on AI projects for the last 8 months of this year. And we've been stress testing these agents and these workflows across real campaigns with real client data and real operations. For example, we built a lead enrichment platform that, if we use Clay to do it, would cost us $780,000 a year. Now only costs us $10,800 a year to run. We built a copywriting agent that sends personalized emails to tens of thousands of contacts each week. And not just generate copy that looks kind of okay, copy that led us to double our monthly meetings booked from 70, 80 meetings per month to 130 meetings per month. And then lastly, we built a business brain, a queryable database that AI knows how to read. Queryable just means that AI knows where to find things and what it means. So it knows our marketing metrics, it knows where all of our projects are, and it knows everything before we even start a conversation with it. In fact, we have agents working proactively based on this information. And the business owners that know this and have figured out how to build these systems, more importantly, as Uncle Charlie Munger always says, in the right order, are the ones who are going to get an unfair competitive advantage in this new AI age. And those that don't, they're still just going to be there sitting, talking to Claude and wondering why they're not getting ahead and why they're not seeing any increased productivity gains. And then lastly, everybody has shiny object syndrome, including us. And this is something that we've struggled with. Because there's infinite opportunities, you probably see, oh, well, we can do this thing. Or, hey, we can build this agent. Oh, we can do this thing. Oh, we can do that agent. And then you see the project list just get bigger and bigger while projects slowly die a slow death, quietly. Nobody talks about or hears about. I see it's because of 3 reasons. The first, founder sees, oh, we can just code now for super cheap. Let me build a Saas company. Congratulations. You've had the same idea as hundreds of thousands of people. And the only reason you should do that is if you already have distribution and a client base that you can sell to. The second is spending months, vibe coding 12, 14 hours a day, building tools that nobody uses, that doesn't create real world outcomes. So, and the third founder, which is most of you, is that you're just talking to Claude all the time, where you're still running a human-driven process where you're the one initiating all the work as opposed to machines initiating the work, and then calling it AI adoption. And none of these are the answer. The way to solve this is building for one outcome, right? Elon Musk does this every week, where he goes to one of his companies and he solves one problem for one specific outcome. And it's just on the constraint. You have to deploy AI infrastructure and agents the exact same way. So here's what you need in order to build that. It's 4 components, and each one of them fixes one of the problems that I talked about before. And I talked a little bit about the one outcome, but the first project, and you write this down, is a business brain. You have to have a database that AI knows how to read and where to find things easily. For example, if every time you talk to Claude, you're starting from zero. It's like, but Scott, Claude has all my business context. Really? You're telling me that you've never, despite that, you've never had to give Claude additional context. You've never had to upload new documents. You've never had to upload new information to get the output that it wants. And then when you get that output, was it always 100% of what you needed? Of course not, right? So what are we talking about here? And every time that you do that, it costs time because you have to reload, upload benchmarks, you have to rebrief it, you have to provide additional business documentation, etc. And now you spent 30 minutes in each session just re-explaining things that you've already explained before in the past. The fix is a database. And a database is just like a fancy, it doesn't need to be something complicated. It's just rows and columns. It's like a fancy spreadsheet or a group of multiple spreadsheets. And this is what you call a data schema, right? The data schema is just a fancy word for you to say, all right, what is each one of these databases called or files called? And then what are the rows and columns on each one of those databases called and labeled? And that is what your data schema is. It's just a fancy way to describe multiple spreadsheets. And unless you're Meta and Mark Zuckerberg, you don't need anything fancier than that. And if anybody tells you otherwise, fire them. They just want your money so that they can build something more complicated. Trust me, spent tens of thousands of dollars hiring and firing devs this year. As somebody who's wasted money in a lot of fun, very creative ways, there are a lot more fun, creative ways to do that than overhiring engineers. And the reason the data schema matters is because this is where your information and context is saved. Now, hopefully your financials, your marketing metrics, your customer data, your project data already live somewhere. And if so, then that makes this way easier to build, because then it's simply a matter of plugging an agent in and looking at it. Now, if that's not already built and you need it in something fancier like a Supabase or Postgres or whatever, then I would recommend building an agent to do that. Have the agents do the migration. Don't have your team do the migration. God, please. Don't turn that into a 200-hour project that is just a huge time suck and expensive. But if you already have all the information saved somewhere, then you don't even need to do that. You don't even need to build the agents to migrate it if the data schema exists. Big if. And it's already organized in a way that AI can actually read it. For those of you that are still using Google Docs or Google Sheets, probably don't have a queryable database. And then that's where something like Supabase or Postgres comes in. But I digress. Now, what makes a database readable? For humans, the way that we interfaced inside of a company in the past was SOPs. This is the same reason why you need a database. Is the database and schema is what makes the AI workflows scalable for multiple agents to work off of and work from. And when I built the business brain for us with all of our client campaign data and migrating that into a specific database off of Google Sheets, the shift was immediate because I no longer had to tell AI who this client was. I no longer had to upload their campaign metrics. I no longer had to upload all this context. I could just talk to an agent and it already has all that information. And then, oh, by the way, if there's other things that we need to do for them, it can just spit it out immediately because it already knows what copy writing converts. It already knows the metrics around it. And then it's a way faster prompt exercise where I don't need to jump around between files to upload and give the right context. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference between a chatbot that you have to upload every single time versus an agent that can initiate its own workflows, or something that can take the ball and run with it because it already knows everything that it needs to. And then component 2, agents that initiate the work. Now, most founders and teams still use AI reactively. Like they go to Claude, they get an output, blah, 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 blah. And then they bring it back into the next step of the workflow. This is not agentic. This is a human-driven process, like I said earlier, that's slightly smarter but has more steps and is slower. An agentic system is one that initiates the work without a human needing to trigger it. And I'm going to talk about how you can build your teams like this, the future of teams shortly, and how you can build a team that can actually deliver this without you needing to do all the heavy lifting. Now, because you've already defined a single outcome, like calls or reducing costs, the agent reads the business brain, pulls the relevant context, and executes the task, and then surfaces the output for the review for the next part of the process. And component 3, infrastructure built towards one specific outcome. what is the one metric or result that you really care about that you want to move the needle on? Because once you have that and you have clarity and you start with that, and then you achieve that result, great. Now you have real value that you can then use to invest in the next workflow. And the companies that get this right are going to be the ones that compound over time, that gain an unfair competitive advantage. And component 4, the right people at the right stations. Now, when maybe you're like me, and when I got started on this 8 months ago, I felt like I was in a swamp. I had no idea where anything was. I'm like talking to Claude Code about like this backend data architecture. I have no idea if it's good or not. I'm just YOLOing it with vibe coding and hoping that the result is going to be good. Meanwhile, I'm questioning my sanity because I'm spending all this time on this, wondering, is this actually going to produce anything? Is this actually going to produce a result? And I'm wondering, is this the best use of my time right now? Is this the best investment for me? For me as a leader to be putting my time, energy, and focus. And so my first instinct was to hire a full stack developer. And in my experience, don't do this because traditional engineers tend to over engineer, and they don't have experience driving business outcomes. It's a lot like putting a horse on a donkey. Don't do that. But putting a saddle on an elephant or putting a saddle on a donkey is just the wrong tool. It could be a good tool, but it's not the right tool for the job. For example, the second developer that I hired told me a build would take me 3 weeks. I built it on OpenClaw within 12 minutes. The people that you want to help you with this are not pure devs. You want to be working with people who have real business or agency experience and who can vibe code. These are your integration specialists. I mean, for those of you in the Pabbly and Zapier days when we were building automations, know that you can hire this same type of technical talent for 15, 20 bucks an hour. And then great, once you get them to work, then these are your vibe coders because it's virtually the same skill. They've also been responsible for driving real business outcomes because they've lived inside of real business operations. And so that's the profile. You want business experience first, and then vibe coding or dev experience second. And if they're a full stack dev and they have that skill, that's a bonus. So the team structure for this is simple. 1, you have your integrations or vibe coder building the infrastructure, and you need to give them what infrastructure you want to build, right? They need a proper briefing. They need to know what is the one metric that you want to accomplish, why is it that you're doing it, and what is it that you ultimately want the output to do. And then you take an expert. In our case, it's a copywriter. So you have a copywriter then work with that integrations or integration specialist or vibe coder to design the actual agent. Design what are the constraints, like 200 lines of text, for example. What are the other things that we need this person to do? Because the copywriter needs to give that specific expert experience the context for the prompt or the agent brief. And then from there, once you have these blocks, once you have these two pieces set, then you have the human expert reviewing the outputs and then using evals, which are just a fancy way of the same way that you get feedback for an intern. Like imagine you have a PhD level intern who is brilliant, but they have no idea what they're doing, right? You wouldn't just trust your whole business to them, right? So why are many of you doing that still with AI? But you wouldn't trust your whole business to them, but you would still train them. You'd still instruct them to run a specific process and then give them feedback for what great looks like. And many of you have probably seen this. Working with Claude Code or Claude, it's when it asks you, how are we doing today? It's 1 to 10 scale. Because it wants to, and this is how the leading AI labs train their models. So how you can set this up is you set up, it's like a simple feedback form that you then submit into a database, whether that's true or false on a pass or fail, something that is deterministic. For those of you that are non-technical and watching this, deterministic just means it's a simple, this is what 1 means, this is what 2 means, this is what 3 means, this is what 4 means, this is what pass means, or this is what fail means. Because the AI agents use that to then get smarter. And that's how you can turn this brilliant PhD level intern into a superstar that can actually drive the whole workflow to where it is that the copywriter doesn't need to be involved as much. And the copywriter, instead of doing 100% of the work, can now just focus on the quality assurance and doing 10% of the work. 100%, 10%. And then you as the founder are overseeing this process and building it for leverage. Now, when you string all of these pieces together, there's two benefits. Number one is you start getting the compounding effect, because now you have one outcome and one result, or value created for shareholders, whether that's profit or growth. Like, all here to create shareholder value. You're watching my channel, that's why you're here too. In case you didn't know that. Greatest meme of all, one of the best memes of all time. So once you have that additional profit or value, then you can take that and then reinvest that back in the business. And then now you have another outcome. And then you can reinvest this back in the business. This is how you can get compounding returns from your AI spend. The other benefit of this, once you start making these investments, it now becomes very cheap for you to invest in creating more gains and more efforts. And these are the business models of how you can fully capitalize on AI, as well as how to build the teams for leverage so that you as a founder are not stuck doing everything and building out all this infrastructure. If you implement all of this, you are going to gain an unfair competitive advantage in 2026, as well as the AI era. So if you want to see how we apply this to our business for growth and how it is that we're generating over 120 sales calls each month and producing $238,000 a month in revenue, we're hosting a free masterclass where we break down how you can use agents to source your entire total addressable market, how to run and crush webinars that convert up to 62 sales calls each month for some of our clients. And we'll walk you through exactly how you can deploy these same systems in your business in an hour-long masterclass that we host every Tuesday at 11 a.m. So I'll see you there, and I'll see you on the next video. If you want to see the world record breakdown of Hormozi, this $106 million webinar, go ahead, click that video here.